Hey everyone, it's Lindsay and I am back today with a Let's Make a Card video. Now I will be using digital stamps, so I am starting out in Photoshop Elements and I'm opening up a brand new panel that will be 4¼ inches by 5½ inches, so the size of an A2 card base. Now I am going to be doing this to where I have it in landscape. So it's going to open up wrong. I put in my width and my height wrong. That's okay. All I need to do is go up to the image tab and just click rotate 90 degrees to the right or the left, and then I've got my panel exactly the way I want it. Now I'm going to go into my digital stamps, and I am using the Mouse Coralers digital stamp. I'll be using the PNG just because I'm going to be adding some a sentiment later on and using some text, so I don't want any of that text to be cut off. So I find that using the PNG image just allows me to go ahead and do that and layer up different elements without worrying about anything being cut off by the white space. So I just brought that in and resized it just a little bit. When I am happy with that, I will click the green arrow, and then I'm going to be using my text tool to add a sentiment. And I'm going to type out "We wish you a Merry Christmas." I love that song, and I just thought it kind of fit with the theme of this card, and the little mice are singing, so I just thought it worked well. I used a font that I thought also went along with kind of the lines of the stamps and how this digital stamp was drawn. Use whatever looks good to you. You're your own worst critic, so if you like it, chances are everyone else will too. So I went ahead, I am resizing that sentiment, and I'm bringing it up to the top right hand corner. When I'm happy with that, I'll click the green arrow, and that's all I'm going to be doing on this card. So at this point, I will go over to my background layer, right click it, and I will flatten my panel out. And that's just going to allow me to save it as a JPEG easier. I always save my panels as JPEGs, and whenever you flatten your image, then you don't have to go in and change anything. So I will just save this as my panel, and I am saving this one and then printing it off because I did this before I was ready to make the card. A lot of times I'll do that. I'll sit down and I'll do a bunch of card fronts. Then whenever I get time in my craft room, I can go and print them out, and I have them all ready. So I printed this off onto craft paper using my laser printer, trimmed it out. Since I printed with crop marks, it was very easy, and now I'm using my alcohol markers to color in these images. Now I have done a video of coloring with your alcohol markers on craft paper. You just want to make sure you test them out beforehand because they will show up a little different on your craft paper, and my craft paper has a tendency to have the markers bleed a little bit easier, so you need to be careful with layering. So it's very easy, very simple to do, not a lot to it, and I'm just coloring these in very quickly. I made the mice pretty light because I wanted them to kind of blend with the craft paper, but also pop off just a little bit. I really wanted that tree in the background to pop out, so I'm coloring it fully in with greens. I put a little shadow underneath, and then because I was doing so much coloring and my hand was rubbing over this so much that I rubbed off a little bit of my toner. So I do this a lot. I just bring in my micron pen and I use a size tip that corresponds with the lines on the stamp. You just need to test it on a scrap piece of paper, and then I go over my lines. Now you definitely don't have to do this. You can still see everything on your panel, but I just find that it helps the images pop off a little bit more, and it just makes the lines so much crisp and cleaner. And really, it only takes a few minutes, so it's not that big of a deal to me to do this. I won't make you sit through the whole thing, so I'll go ahead and skip ahead now to where I filled in everything. I also went over the sentiment, which again, very easy to do, and there I have my finished panel, and now I wanted to add some snow. So I turned my camera off, got all my supplies out, and then didn't turn it back on. But what I did was I used whipped spackle, I added in some distressed glitter and rock candy, and I also added perfect pearls for some shine. Then I laid the snow stencil from Simon Says Stamp right over the top of this. I believe it's called Falling Snow. And I just use my spatula to rub that right through the stencil onto my image that I had colored in. Now, the glitter and the perfect pearls do make this a bit chunky, but it adds so much sparkle and shimmer to it. it's a great effect. Now I also wanted to puff up my texture paste a little bit, or my spackle a little bit, so I'm going to take my heat gun to this. Now don't dry your spackle with your heat gun unless you want this effect. What it's going to do is it's going to really puff it up, and it's a really cool effect, but sometimes you don't want that. You just want to let it air dry. But today I wanted it to puff up nice and big, so I am taking my heat to it. And then once I have that all dry, you can see how much dimension this has. And it's just a really neat effect. So the only thing left to do for this card was apply some double-sided adhesive to the back of this panel. And I am using the same double-sided adhesive I always use. And then I use my bone folder to burnish it down, so it makes pulling off the backing paper a little bit easier. You can also use a craft pick, and that will help you get the backing paper off of this a little bit easier as well. Whenever I did go about burnishing this down, I had to be a little bit careful on those spots where I knew that there was that whipped spackle underneath, just because I didn't want to take the chance of flattening it out any. So that's why you can see I'm having a little bit more difficulty on that right hand side peeling up the backing paper. But once I had all of that off, all that was left to do was mount this right onto that A2 top folding card base that I had ready to go. Once I laid that down, this card was done. I didn't add any extra embellishment. I just left it as is. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope I have inspired you too to make a card. As always, I will leave you with just a few pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy crafting!